Hello everyone, it's Lee the Appraiser for another episode of Amazing Appraising here in our brand new gallery at APR 57. And today we have another an unusual development in the research and authentication of JFK and Sinatra'S hands. Okay, so we're gonna, give me a sec here, we're gonna pull it out. Okay, so this is the unique statue which was actually written about here. Let's I think it's over here. Here. This is the largest daily circulation paper in the entire New York City and state. It's not called Potty Break, it's called New York. And on this week's issue, on page 41, they have a whole page or half a page article about $1 million sculpture, yes or no. This was brought to us a couple weeks ago to evaluate, authenticate, and appraise. And it talks about our whole research and what was entailed in appraising it. And it's a constant project that we're still looking into, and to make it, just summarize it, basically, we had a gentleman that brought this in a couple weeks ago. And how did he find it? He bought it in a storage bin in Long Island about 35 years ago. You know, when they have these storage lockers, they typically have auctions, and they sell them for peanuts, pennies on the dollar. Nobody knows what's in there. You're not even allowed to look, actually. They opened the door. They had a thing, it's called Storage Wars on, I think, the History Channel. So you can't really touch the stuff. What you see, you have to base yourself, to evaluate it. So I've never gone to those live. I would probably be a pretty good person to do that if I had the time. But anyhow, so he, as conceivably said, he bought this. It was in a trunk or something, and he bought it. And what it is, it looks like it's a sculpture. We did the research on it, and it looks like it was done by this artist, Paolo Corvino, who was out in Queens, New York. It is signed by him. It is signed by, on this side here, the arm says Sinatra. On this side, it says JFK. These are not signatures. These are the artist markings. And he was known for these type of pop art items, particularly hands from various celebrities. And the story goes, it has a label on it here that appears to be dated January 21st, 1961. It goes, "Thank you, Mr. Sinatra. John F. Kennedy, Frank Sinatra, White House, Washington, D.C., January 21st, 1961. And 1961 was the inauguration day of President JFK. Everybody should have that ingrained in their mind now because of this past year's inauguration. Everybody knows, we had some issues in Washington on that date. But anyhow, so it was a little quieter times then. So the question is this in fact real or not? Purportedly, it was on Inauguration Day. The information we have is that Frank Sinatra was invited to host the White House inauguration ball, and that it appears that maybe the White House ordered this gift to give to Sinatra in gratitude for him at hosting the event. So, lo and behold, we have a gentleman here. Your first name is?
John.
John. We have John here from New York City. How did you hear about us?
On the radio.
On the radio. Did you hear about it from our show or just an advertisement?
Advertisement.
Okay. Do you remember the station? Was it WOR?
Well, I think you're on several stations. With one of the talk radio stations.
Talk radio stations. Okay. So we actually talk on one of the talk radio. We have our own show actually. Sunday evenings at 8 o'clock.
Sunday at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it's called Amazing Appraising.
I didn't realize that. I'm going to be listening.
Please do that. Okay, John, right?
That's right.
Okay, so you heard about us on the radio. So he comes in here, and I don't know if you saw this piece or you just came up here, and he tells us he's an expert on all things Sinatra.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. That's not really true. I happen to...
He's humble. We're going to call him Humble John.
I happen to have come across a copy of one of the most interesting books that was been written about Frank Sinatra by the late Pete Hamill.
Pete Hamill, is he the same Pete Hamill that was the writer for the New York Post?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, I remember him well. Great writer. Is he still with us or no?
No, I think Pete Hamill has left us.
But not too long ago, right? The last couple of years
not that
maybe,
long,
right?
no.
Okay, so tell us, which is really all we're concerned about right this second, is what we want to do is find out if the idea story that was given to us makes sense. Because, you know, I always thought that based on the fact that JFK's father was in the, purportedly he made his money through liquor and prohibition era.
He did.
And in order to do that successfully, one clearly had to have ties to the mob and organized crime, which it's rumors he did as well. And I heard rumors to the effect that that connection helped his son, JFK, become president of the United States. I don't know if that's true. I'm just telling you what I heard.
I have continually heard stories on the radio and in books that would tend to support that, particularly in Chicago. Let's just say the organization, a euphemism, let's say the organization helped to get Kennedy elected. In fact, there is, I think there was some controversy to the extent that actually Nixon may have legitimately won the election in 1960, but that because of one sort of chicanery or another, that Kennedy turned out to be the victor, and Nixon knew about this, but he did not contest it.
And why wouldn't have he contested it?
Pardon me?
Why wouldn't have he contested it if in fact that's what he believed?
Because I'm just guessing about this, but I suspect it was because the outcome was close enough, and that Nixon, despite what many people think, was enough of a true patriot so that he didn't want to get involved in something which would be seriously controversial and detrimental to the
So you
development.
are saying somebody actually had the audacity to believe that one of our elections was sort of fixed? Is that possible? I've never heard that before.
I seem to have heard continual stories over the years to the extent that that is true.
Wow. My gosh, to think that they could fix an election.
And
I've heard other people make that.
well, you know, there are these odd connections. As I understand it, and we've established now, thanks to Google, that this happened somewhat after Kennedy's election in 1961. The Kennedy people were concerned about Sinatra's supposed connection to the mob, such as it was. And at the same time, you're right, Joseph P. Kennedy was, let's just say, he was in the business of providing alcoholic beverages during Prohibition.
Alcoholic beverages.
I don't know that.
It sounds like he worked, serving drinks on a plane.
I think it was a little bit more fundamental than that.
Okay.
But and I don't know that he was directly connected with the organization, but you're absolutely right. I mean, they existed in a kind of parallel.
So
business.
basically, what we are trying to figure out and determine was in fact the possibility that the White House asked Mr. Frank Sinatra to perform at the inauguration ball.
According to Google, he absolutely did.
Okay, and what does it actually say there? Can you read what Mr. Google says?
Here it is. Can I read this here?
Sure can.
On the night before John F. Kennedy made history as America's youngest elected president, as well as its first Catholic one, a star-studded bash hosted by Frank Sinatra helped usher in what many hoped would be a new era in American history. But the event also revealed the deep racial divisions that still grip much of the nation. So there it is. and right there on Google.
And Ms. Giuliani, could you just read a little further and just see if there's any connection that shows that perhaps the White House got this gift for Sinatra, or anyone gave it to him, or anything along those lines for performing? Okay? So basically what we have right now is affirmation that the White House, or somebody at the White House, well, and I forget the White House, we have affirmation that Sinatra performed at the Inauguration Ball. We're going to say he was asked or requested to do so by the White House. He wouldn't just knock on the door and show up.
John Kennedy was a gallant and a magnanimous man, and I'm sure that he must have thought that something along these lines would be in order for Mr. Sinatra. It might have been suggested by John Kennedy.
So the problem I have is that clearly, even if they were buddy-buddy up until 61, and we're assuming that for numerous reasons, we've discussed it at length, perhaps one reason is that the administration didn't feel that it's good for Kennedy to have an association with somebody who may be associated with the mob.
Yes, they were very concerned.
Well, whatever the reasons are, I heard that Sinatra really didn't like Kennedy. I heard that there are rumors that Kennedy had a very strong liking to Miss Marilyn Monroe. There's rumors that Sinatra at one point had liking to her. There's rumors that Sinatra was even interested in JFK's sister. These are all things I've heard. So there's a lot of things that may have happened afterwards. But the question is, and what we want to determine, the question is that we want to figure out is, so I think with so many things in the background, meaning that they may have been buddy-buddy a little in the front, but I don't believe personally that JFK would have suggested that he give this gift to Sinatra. Well, and certainly if he would have given it to him, there would have been cameras and press if he presented it to him. That's clear in my opinion. So I don't think he gave it to him. If this was in fact ordered by the White House to give to Sinatra, I think there's a good chance it was done on the QT and it wasn't done for public exposure. And again, if it was done for public exposure, that means it was given to Sinatra. So that means A, there were cameras, information, and it would have been on record. We checked with the White House archives. They have no record of JFK giving this to Sinatra.
Are there any photographs of this being in Frank Sinatra's possession?
No, not that we were able to find out. So, I think that there's a couple of possibilities. I think there's one possibility, frankly, that maybe somebody in the White House wanted to give it to Sinatra. They may have ordered it, they may have gotten it, and it never came to Sinatra's hands. How does it get? I mean, there's only one possibility, probably. How does it get into Frank Sinatra's hands, okay, in 1961? I don't know at that time. I have to check exactly where he was living at that time. And how does it get into a warehouse in Long Island? It means if Frank Sinatra had been given this by the White House, by JFK, you would think that he would want to keep it and display it. Of course, there's a possibility that he got it and then did not, hated JFK and didn't want to show that there was any appreciation.
Well, first of all, after they had the falling out for whatever reason, Sinatra was the type of a person who would not have wanted to have something like this in his sight. And so he might have given it to someone or whatever.
Or he may have just locked it up in storage. That makes sense.
In response to what you said, the history of art is just replete at what we might call the Maltese Falcon syndrome, where all kinds of fascinating pieces of art have gone through multiple ownerships and ended up in very peculiar places.
That is true.
In fact, the authentication of artworks in that regard is, I'm sure you're quite an expert at it, and it's one of the major preoccupations of people like yourself who deal with artifacts, is authenticating pieces of art.
Right. But what I use is I use my ability to try to figure out the story before I figure out the artwork. I mean, I like to find out. To me, 90% of my ability to authenticate and evaluate something, I like to find out. To me, 90% of my ability to authenticate and evaluate something is to use the circumstances to figure out.
Is the artist still alive?
Oh, if the artist was still alive, it would have been no problem.
Is there?
I call him up.
Did he have any relatives or friends who might have been able to confirm?
So you're getting warm, buddy. So I talked to his kids and grandkids, and not one of them knew about this or was able to verify this. So in my opinion, that's a big strike against it, because if you were the artist and you purportedly got an order from the White House to make a sculpture of perhaps the greatest singer of our generation,
I would say so.
And say, for argument's sake, one of the, if not the most popular president of our generation.
You're going to say that there would have been documentation.
He would have had a picture in his house when you walk through the door. Hey, I'm Paolo Covino, the artist who made this one-of-a-kind masterpiece that was ordered from the White House and given to Frank Sinatra. And the fact that none of his relatives or family knows about that, to me, that's the biggest strike against it, that this actually happened, meaning it was actually given. I think everything here dictates it was made and perhaps ordered by the White House. It could have been ordered by somebody in the White House. But for whatever reason, my guess is it was never given to Sinatra. And if it was given to him in the QT and maybe sent to him in a box. And that's my guess. We're still working on it. So if you have any additional insights that you can share with us at a later date.
It sounds to me, I mean, what you're saying has the ring of truth about it, and it sounds to me like it's a very likely situation. It certainly would not be, I mean, to the extent that Sinatra did perform, it certainly would be in line with any corporation in a situation like that to send some sort of a corporate gift.
So we haven't even been able to verify up until now that Sinatra. It was told to us that it was verifiable that Sinatra even performed at the White House that day at the inauguration. Now you would think that there might be pictures of Sinatra and Kennedy together, and I'm not saying they don't exist, but we haven't seen any yet. So for whatever it's worth.
Well, the only thing I can say is this: is that I believe. I seem to recall that there is at least one very substantial biography of Sinatra that's been done. I think it was after he passed away in 1998, and perhaps the author of that book might be able to.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we just bought and appraised your very, very large coin collection. So we're going to put you in charge of doing the necessary research to see if you can verify any of the information we discussed, and if you can somehow or another verify that somebody at the White House actually ordered and gave this to Frank Sinatra.
That's not exactly in my line, but
What is your line?
I'm a pianist.
A pianist, okay, well.
I'm a ballet accompanist.
Whoa, so what does that mean?
I play the piano for ballet dancers in their classes.
Wow, talk about a specialized field, Miss Blue.
Yeah.
It is the most. It is one of the most wonderful things that you can do if you're a piano player.
So we want to thank our guest, Mr. John, here, who is a professional pianist, not for everybody, but just for ballerinas, just for ballet schools.
And guys too.
Guys too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We actually have a client that is the head ballet at the Metropolitan Opera. He was a head guy in the Nutcracker and a lot of these shows.
Was he a dancer or a choreographer?
A dancer.
What's his
Oh.
what's his name? Peter Martins.
I'll have to dig it out from my phone.
Peter Martins is a tall guy. Very well known.
He was like Asian looking.
Asian?
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
believe
not
so.
Peter Martins.
I'll have to double check. But anyhow, we want to thank our guest here, who is helped us trying to figure out the research and truth behind the relationship between our President JFK and Mr. Frank Sinatra. And he's not finished yet. He's going to come back, hopefully, for part 2 and give us more information and hopefully answer these questions that keep me up every night. And I got to sleep. I'm here like 16 hours a day. I got to sleep. So you got to keep me up.
In a place like this, which is a quintessential New York place, your galleries here, this is really what makes New York, New York. And I was looking around at a number of things that you have here, and you've got cultural artifacts from the 20th century here. I mean, real, genuine articles. This is the place.
Well, I appreciate that. So if anyone needs anything appraised or they want to evaluate or research or sold, come here, please, the APR 57. Do you know anything, were you ever good at math?
Yes, I had some connection with it at one point. Yeah.
Because my father was he actually was a student at Princeton, and when he was a student there, he went to school with Einstein. He was a carpool with Professor Einstein.
Einstein worked at the school for advanced study at Princeton.
Right, so this is going back, it's probably like 1930 or something like that, very early.
It may have been a little later than that. Einstein passed away in 1955, but after the war, I believe he went to work at the...
No, he was there early. He had to be there early. This is when my father had to be a teenager. But anyhow, just one of the stories. When my father passed, I mean, he loved music. He was head of the math department at Columbia University, but he loved music. And he used to, he would just listen to classical music every night, all the time. And I've been told that there's a tremendous association between music and math, like in the numbers, the way the tones and the chords. And
I personally have been acquainted with several people who have had a strong interest in both of those disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a stranger to numbers, but I'm more of a music person, actually.
Cool. Anyhow, so by the way, if anyone needs somebody to play the piano for them while they're practicing ballet, just give us a call, reach out to us, and we will be happy to put you in touch with the premier piano player for ballet dancers, Mr. John here.
I would.
Are you Dr. John? Can I call you Dr. John?
If you want to, I wouldn't put myself in that position. There are some fabulous pianists here in New York.
But I've never met one that says, "Oh no, I only play for ballet dancers."
And I'm telling you, ideally, if you want to play for ballet dancers, you should know all the music in the world and be quite versatile. And there are some wonderful, wonderful pianists out there. I'm thinking of people like Doug Schultz, Michael Cherry, and many others who...
But they might specialize in a number of different genres and other types of, professional positions. But you're the one that you specialize just in ballet dancers, right?
For the most part, yeah. But ballet music is a specialized kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to be very melodic and very up. The dancers need to be inspired.
Cool.
And I'm just going to say that the relationship that you get in class between the music and ballet, and that you see on stage between the dance and the music, is something that is so exciting and so special that it's absolutely wonderful, really is. That's why people go over to Lincoln Center. Well, you're a dancer. That's why people go over to Lincoln Center and they're willing to pay $100 a ticket to see the New York City Ballet.
$100 a ticket, you get in the rafters. They pay $1,000 to get right in front. So let me just ask you a little about your background here. So where did you learn? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Long Island, in South Shore of Long Island.
Okay, and when did you decide that you wanted to play the piano professionally?
Well, I started taking piano lessons when I was a kid.
Okay.
And
did you want that, or did your parents push that on you?
And I played an assortment of parties and things like that occasionally in high school. But to make a very long story short, I had a composer friend who in 1976 suggested that I should play ballet classes. He was doing that. He was looking for a replacement for himself, and he kind of gave me
sort of like a little selfish, little.
No. He gave me a certain insight into it, but he didn't have time to really run it down. So I tried playing a few classes, and it didn't work. But several years after that, a connection was made, and I realized that's what I really wanted to do.
It's very cool.
And
so you get to see immediately your inspiration, the results of your work immediately through these unbelievable dancers, right? I mean, crazy,
the
right?
dancers, something, our job is to inspire the dancers.
Whoa.
But it really works the other way around. It's the dancers and the step that inspire the music.
Whoa. Get a shovel, everybody. This is so deep.
No, that's really true. And then there is a connection, as I said, between the steps and the music that is just pure excitement. Am I right about that?
Yes.
And there are occasions, I think for people who don't know much about ballet, as I did not when I was just starting out, occasionally you see a performance where the music and the steps are so together and so integrated that you can't believe it. You're just watching something which is just absolutely unbelievable.
They're fused together. You can't have one without the other. You cannot have ballet without music, and you can't really have music in some ways without performing art. Yeah, there is. There is a song.
Okay. So, anyhow, look, this is just another amazing episode of Amazing Appraising. I have to say, really, I mean, here it is. You come off the street with, some coins, basically nothing too much here over the last 10 years. And who would have known that you are somebody that has like an amazing history, an amazing talent, an amazing skill, and that you inspire hundreds and maybe thousands of people in professional ballet to continue their craft. That's really an amazing thing.
I appreciate your saying that. I can just tell you this, so that New York is full of supremely talented people. I have a certain modest ability, but that's New York. And again, I'm going to say it, that your gallery here, and I think you ladies would agree with this, your gallery here, this is the essence of New York. What's the store? The Nordstrom. There are Nordstroms all across the country. There are McDonald's all across the country. There were Duane Reades throughout the city on every corner, and there are stores that are like Walgreens or Duane Reades across the country.
Right. We deal in unique products. We are unique.
That's right. But
and we attract unique people.
Pardon me?
We attract a lot of unique people.
Right. So I'm going to say, just as we're unique and unusual, you're unique and unusual. And I want to thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure.
Really. We had a young woman here just yesterday. She comes in here to repair a watch. Okay? I could tell by looking at her that I asked her if she was a triathlon athlete. She was about 6 feet tall, slender, muscular. She looked like, maybe 40 years old. But just very slender, attractive, and she was looked like in her jogging clothes. And I said, by the way, are you a triathlete? And she goes, no, but I was a swimmer. Okay? She leaves the watch with us. I knew her name. She gave me her name. I knew her name was familiar. I looked it up. Her name was Dara Torres. She was one of the greatest female swimmers in the world. She's the only woman that appeared in 5 consecutive Olympics over the course of 20 years. She won 12 Olympic medals, and she's the oldest woman to compete in an event of swimming. She was competing at 41 years old in the Olympics, in her last Olympics. And now I guess she's 55 or something like that. She looks like 40. Just an amazing story. And she gave us an interview like the most humble, simple, beautiful woman. Really, I'm just crazy. You can go to our YouTube channel. You'll see it there. What's she under? Dara Torres?
Dara Torres, spontaneous.
APR
Interview
57.
everybody. APR 57. Lee the
Okay.
Appraiser. Amazing appraising.
So, anyhow, John, a pleasure. We're going to see what you can find out for us about if we can verify anything.
I'll probably have to hire a detective.
Hire a detective, that's fine. And do us a favor, get us tickets to your next concert that you're playing music for. Okay?
Oh, please, yes.
Okay?
It may be on the sidewalk, but when it comes up,
That's
I'll let-
fine.
I'll let-
We'll
I'll
just
let
give
you
us good
know.
seats. Okay?